What's up, YouTube? So, in this episode of First Take, they're going to be talking about how Antonio Brown has been taking advice from Terrell Owens. So, apparently, Antonio Brown is thinking about leaving the Pittsburgh Steelers to, I guess, go to a team up in the Bay, which would probably be either San Francisco or the Oakland Raiders, even though the Oakland Raiders are going to be moving to Las Vegas pretty soon. So, it kind of depends on how you look at him taking advice from T.O. Some people think you don't want to listen to T.O. because of all the antics and all that he had on and off the field. You know, with, holding out and just getting in trouble, not getting along with staff and other players, and just having a bad aura in the locker room. But on the other hand, T.O. is a Hall of Fame wide receiver. He's a great wide receiver. Some people say he's arguably the best wide receiver. No disrespect to Jerry Rice. But let's see what they have to say on First Take.
Terrell Owens has become a mentor for Antonio Brown. T.O. told the NFL Network last week that AB wants out of Pittsburgh, and Brown asked about playing in the Bay Area. And so, Stephen A., is it a good or bad thing that Brown is getting advice from T.O.?
Bad, but not because he's getting advice from T.O. Bad because it's been publicized. T.O. knows football. T.O. is smart. T.O. can certainly tell Antonio Brown about what minefields to avoid, what mistakes may have been made along the way, et cetera, et cetera. The problem is when you publicize the fact that you're the individual that he's listening to, while piggybacking off of Brown saying he wants to go back to the Bay Area. Well, there's a lot of stuff that went on in the Bay Area that people would hold against T.O. So the fact that he will publicize this, I don't think that helps Antonio Brown. Not that.
So I don't agree with Stephen A. with that. I don't think people in the Bay will reject Antonio Brown because he's taking advice from T.O. or disrespect him or anything like that. You know, Antonio Brown is just his own man. He's proven himself in the league. He's been in the league for a while. You know, we know he can ball. So it shouldn't be a problem with him who he takes advice from. It all depends on how he acts in the locker room, what he does on the field. So, you know, I don't think people will be treat him any kind of way if they know that he's taking advice from T.O.
He's receiving advice because you should receive advice from T.O. any chance you can get it. I'm just saying everybody didn't need to know.
This is one of those things that makes perfect sense. Stephen A., and I'm surprised you didn't take a year. Every single time, practically, we brought up this situation with Antonio Brown and Big Ben Roethlisberger. The Steelers are your team. Mm-hmm. You would bring up the fact that you were in Philly covering those Eagles teams with the McNabb-T.O. rift.
Yeah.
Like you would compare it to that situation.
Yes.
It makes perfect sense that Antonio Brown is getting advice from this guy.
I agree with that. I just said not publicly.
The difference is that T.O. got sent away from that team, and in this case, Antonio Brown seems to have taken himself off the field in a game they desperately needed to win. D. Wood, has Antonio Brown made himself someone other teams are going to be very hesitant about?
I would. Listen, as great as Antonio Brown is, and I think Antonio Brown is the best receiver in the game, I don't know particularly if it's worth it, in my opinion. You bring in a guy into the locker room, and I'm always worried of bringing in people that messes up the chemistry in the locker room. You know, it's one thing to have the production. It's another thing to bring in a guy who just destroys the chemistry in the locker room.
Yeah, and I've read many stories of Terrell Owens really disrupting the aura in the locker room. And that's huge because nobody wants to go to work and have to deal with a guy that's a Debbie Downer, if you will. Nobody wants to go to work and you always have to deal with some type of drama or there's something going on. You don't have to deal with that in the locker room or on the field. Plus, you're depending on somebody to do their job so you can do your job so we can all win. And that's just not good to have in a locker room.
And the one thing we've seen in Pittsburgh, it seems like there's just been all types of drama up there. And part of it is due to Antonio Brown and the things that he has going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if you can't get right with the Pittsburgh Steelers, if you can't act right in that organization, I don't know too many other organizations that you're going to be happy with if you can't.
Now, that's not necessarily true because what works for one man might not work for another. The Pittsburgh Steelers organization might be an excellent organization. Their staff might be cool. The coaching staff might be cool. The people in the office, just the whole Pittsburgh Steelers community might be cool. but it might not work for Antonio Brown. It just might not work for him. He might go to another place that the general sense is that everybody says this place is a terrible place to work at. The staff are rude. They have a higher turnover. You know, nobody likes playing for this organization, but that might fit just fine for Antonio Brown. So saying that, you know, the Pittsburgh Steelers organization is a good organization, and if he can't get along with that, then, you know, he's a problem. You can look at it from two ways. So I don't quite agree with that.
Be happy in a stable franchise like the Steelers.
But Stephen A., is there literally any chance he is back in Pittsburgh next year?
I think there is a chance. I think there is a chance because when you're that great, the Steelers have to be smart. I understand that Juju Smith-Schuster is a big-time receiver as well, but having two of them is better than one. And if you are Big Ben Roethlisberger, again, piggybacking off of what Max said, bringing up T.O. and Donovan McNabb, I'm saying, excuse me, you don't beef about stuff and allow that to get in the way of success. Now, if you ain't successful like you...
That's very true, Stephen A. That's very true. You know, you go to work, you don't have to like everybody. You're not going to get along with everybody. But you can't let that affect your job. You can't let it affect your job. You got to learn to separate the two. It's the same thing I heard about Tom Brady and Bill Belichick not liking each other. They don't like each other probably, but they get the job done. And their shows. Because how does it show? They're at the Super Bowl right now. And they're probably going to win it. So everybody's not going to get along, but you still have to be mature enough to get the job done. Another good example would be, look at Kobe and Shaq. Those two knuckleheads should have easily had 6 or 7 or maybe even 8 championships if they could have just set the egos aside and played. Don't worry about what Shaq said about you. Don't worry about what Kobe said about you. Just play the fucking game and get rings. Get rings, and then you can worry about everything else afterwards. Let's get back to what they're saying.
For this year, but there's a talent, you bereft of talent, that would be one thing. But if Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown somehow get on the same page, imagine how much the Steelers would benefit from that. I think that outweighs everything.
He may be back, but I don't think it's because of that. It's because it would be because they kicked some teams kicked the tires on Antonio Brown and weren't offering enough compensation to the Steelers for him. I mean, Le'Veon Bell, I figured they were going to move him and get something for him. Obviously, the offers weren't good enough in their opinion, and then they just got nothing for him. So if he's still there, I think it's because of that.
I got a question. Antonio Brown is 31 years old. What the hell he need a mentor for? Like,
actually, no, I was thinking the same thing. Like, he's been in the league for a while. He's not a rookie, or he's not a second or third year guy. So I don't understand why. I guess you can kind of see. You can never have enough information. You can never have enough wisdom from somebody, and especially from a Hall of Famer like Terrell Owens. So I hope he's not asking him basic questions, though. Hope he's asking him like guru type questions, like, well, how do I do this? I don't know. Let's get back to it.
You've been in the league like 8-9 years. Well, if you don't know you don't know how to be a pro, you don't know how the league operates, why you need to seek the counsel of Terrell Owens? To me, that's a question I need to ask about this whole situation.
I don't think that's a question for you to be asking. Number one, we all need mentors, and number two, you have one in me.
I just
so watch your mouth. Because you're bigger don't mean